huge coaching advantage, and that should be the most significant in a very close game.
That first game with Tyler Huntley just completely turned me on Mike McDaniel. Ladies and gentlemen, he's the only back-to-back winner of the Super Contest. He is kind enough to join us each and every Friday in studio, and man, do we have a lot to talk about. It's Steve Fezzik at Fezzik Sports on Twitter. How are you, sir?
Shocker, not everyone agrees with me on Twitter.
No. Okay, wait, let's start. Before we get to the two-point conversion, you had a bet with Doug Kazarian.
Yes.
On the election. Correct me if I'm wrong. The bet was you had popular vote. You were so sure Kamala was going to get the popular vote, but then you not only had Kamala to win it, you had Kamala plus 7.5 million votes. And
plus 7%.
Plus 7%.
On the popular vote. So the context here is that Doug was directionally right in his handicap. He says the polls can't be trusted. I think that Trump can win the popular vote. Great handicap. But he took it too far, and he says, in fact, I'm betting 28-1 Trump wins the popular vote by more than 7%. At that point, my head exploded because it's a black swan event of it's like predicting, it's like saying there's going to be a major earthquake on the West Coast and it's going to exceed 11.5. All right. It's fine if you want to bet it's going to exceed 8, but asking for an 11.5 earthquake, it's just not going to happen. And so I famously said 28-1, I'll give you 280-1, which I did, and I won easily, despite what Twitter might say.
What percentage do you end up winning the popular vote?
Right around 3%.
Oh, so easy.
Well, but the reason I say it was so easy is I would argue that's already it was like things couldn't have gone any worse for Harris than what happened. It was already a black swan event, and it still didn't even sniff 4.5%,
yeah.
and I had plus 7%.
28,000 plus to win $100.
Yep, still owes me that 100.
How are you asking him for it? What denomination?
Already have.
10 tens.
I texted him right after the Cali results.
You're slightly Meshuggah making these bets, right?
I don't. But it's not fair because I don't know what Meshuggah is.
Okay, well.
So never forget Purdue money line 80,000. Yeah, I know. You can ask Jeff Benson. He'll be the first to confirm Fez got creamed on that bet, and he's up big on his net, even including that.
Listen, I didn't call you full-blown Meshuggah. I called you slightly Meshuggah.
I'm going to look at that word. I don't think that's a real word. I'm going to try that in Scrabble.
It's Yiddish. It's a real word. Okay, Let's talk about the two-point conversion last night. We had a spirited exchange last night about this. Again, for those who missed the details, Bengals get to 35-34. With over 30 seconds left on the clock. The previous play, Chase Brown ran out of bounds. So then when the 5-yard touchdown pass to Jamar Chase happened to put the Bengals within one at 35-34, there was over 30 seconds left. And you, Steve Fezzik, believe the Bengals should have done what?
They should have kicked. All right. And I'm a guy that believes in aggression, but this is an exception to the rule. And it's not that close. So the right call was to kick the extra point.
Explain to us, and warning, there could be math.
Yeah, danger, math. Let me simplify the math. Let's say there was 2 seconds left. Of course you go for 2. So if you're the underdog, and we're just going to assume you make the 2-point conversion around 50%, excellent point. Maybe it's 48.8% because they don't throw flags. It's close to 50-50. All right, so clearly if you're a 6-point underdog like the Bengals were, going into overtime, you'd be an underdog. Obviously, it would change depending on who wins the coin flip, but you're before the coin flip, you're going to be an underdog. Why? If you're going to be an underdog, end it there, 50-50. But here's where it gets messy, when there's some time left on the clock. So in this case, 38 seconds. So because of that, there's 2 paths that Baltimore can win the game. If you go for 2, all right, you can stop the Bengals. Half the time you win the game, basically. I know they can get the onside kick, but it's very unlikely. And the second path for Baltimore, since he succeeds, well, now Baltimore can go balls to the wall, all right? Ultra aggressive. And I would make the case that they'll score a field goal with 38 seconds about a third of the time, okay? So here's the math. So the probability the Bengals win is they need the 2-point conversion. That's a half.
50%.
Times 2/3 because they need to stop Baltimore. So 1/2 times 2/3. Boom, that's a 1/3 chance of winning. All right. Now there is another path for the Bengals to get the onside kick. So instead of 33%, it's probably around 35% that the Bengals win. So I don't think anyone can argue with that math. It's pretty crystal clear. Now here's the hard part. All right, let's say they kick the extra point. All right. No guarantee they make it, but if they do make it, I would say it's pretty clear.
Extra points, like 93%.
I think it's higher, call it 95, but whatever. But if if I bet the Bengals on the money line, if I had to estimate at that point, okay, they score, they're down 1, they kick in the extra point. How often are they going to win? I think 40% feels about right to me. All right. Now, I know this is a little touchy-feely, but I don't think anyone would say that it's higher than like 45%. I don't think anyone would go down to, well, no, that's only 35% because pre-flop, before the game kicked off, the Bengals only had like a 33% chance to win. Clearly, it's got to be higher than that. The game's tied and there's 35 seconds left. You're probably going to overtime. And here's the thing people lose their minds. People are like, well, you just said Baltimore has a 1/3 chance to score. No, I said they have a 1/3 chance to score if they're down 1. It's way less if the game's tied. Example, at the end of the first half.
Because they will not be as motivated to matriculate.
Happened at the end of the first half.
Yeah.
Baltimore, 30 seconds left. They had the ball. 3-yard pass to Mark Andrews, and we headed to halftime.
You are another way to put that is you are much more likely, if you're down a point, to throw a ball 20 yards downfield into double coverage.
Yes.
Because you have to.
Exactly.
Okay, couple follow-ups to this. The Tampa Bay game a couple weeks ago. Was it a couple weeks? I can't even remember.
One week. It was ago. Monday night.
It was Monday night.
These are concurrent games.
I can't even keep track straight.
It's back to back.
Monday, so were you in favor of them going for 2 in that situation?
Absolutely. Here's why.
Yeah.
Everything
against
changes.
The Chiefs.
Everything changes with 20. There's 27 seconds left. All right. So now
11 seconds fewer.
And that makes all the difference. Well, it kind of intuitively makes sense unless you're the Buffalo Bills and you play ultra prevent and you don't mortar kick, in the famous playoff game where they gave up the score with like 17 seconds left. Like 30 seconds is enough time. It's a viable, you throw 3 out patterns, you kick a field goal. Once it goes below 30, it's kind of very difficult to score, even if you're absolutely, fully focused to score. Whereas once you give a team 40 seconds, 38 seconds, it's much easier. And in the Tampa situation, they would have been a much bigger underdog in overtime because they were an 8.5 point underdog instead of a 6-point underdog.
All right, back to last night's game. And you're absolutely right. It was literally like days ago. Back to last night's game, and just in general, would you allow, Steve Fezzik, is there a possibility that your certainty on your percentages and your numbers, that perhaps you're a little too confident about your numbers, and that because it's football and there's so many moving parts, after all, this is not baseball where we can measure it more precisely. Oh, it's a 264 hitter against a pitcher who has great reverse splits and allows this batting average, right? There's too many moving parts in football that your percentages are great in theory, and maybe, just like you said with Kazarian and the election bet, that directionally, to use your word, directionally you're right, but your certitude is a little maybe off-putting.
Very well said. So I'm not confident that my numbers are right to the nearest 1%. Okay, when I'm estimating all these probabilities, they could be off by like 1 or 2%. But I'm extremely confident that the conclusions are correct because there's enough. It's like a poll, margin of error. It's like there's a 3% margin of error in all this, and there's enough margin of error here where I'm very confident if you threw it into a Monte Carlo simulation and spun it around 10,000 times and ran the games, Tampa should have gone for it, and Cincinnati should not have.
It's interesting. I always talk about betting truth serum, and I felt like in the moment as a viewer of football who has watched, a bajillion games like all of us have, that both teams should have gone for 2. But I understand what you're saying.
And to be fair, I believe I did text in both these games. Tampa should go for it.
You did.
And Cincy should kick.
You did.
So, and of course that's stupid because it's all random on any one trial. But it was correct.
Steve Fezzik, 6 look-ahead plays and 1 for this week. Next. Steve Fezzik alongside, kind enough to join us. By the way, Kelly Bidlin, for those who missed it, a little bit of, I think he ate something bad, so he's not with us today.
I saw a guy late last night at the South Point gambling. I was far away. It looked like him. It was like he looked very drunk. I don't know.
It looked very suspiciously like Kelly. By the way, Fred Courier tweets and he goes, "Awesome show, Gill. Kelly's in timeout." I don't know what that means. He thinks it put him in timeout. By the way, I just read a horse racing promo. Do you ever bet horses? I don't know you to bet horses at all.
Yeah, I'm in trouble on the show because I said that if you're going to follow someone who gives out horse racing picks, it's fun. Go ahead and do it. Right? It's recreational.
Oh, you did
but
say
you're
this.
Probably not going to win. And here's why. It's like the more of us that bet it, then we're going to get worse odds. We don't get to lock in our odds. So I love betting like Triple Crown horse matchups when it's like a sports betting where I can lock in my bet on Giacomo regardless of what the odds do after I make the bet.
It occurs to me that you're always making friends, Steve Fezzik.
Always.
So we have. I don't want to get down this rabbit hole, but we have a couple handicappers. Mike Somich is a great horse handicapper.
He's tremendous. It's just the vig is so high.
Okay.
Well. The vig, I have no doubt that he would win if he could just play against reasonable vig. Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. Let's get your one pick from this week, week 10, out of the way, and then we'll get to your look-aheads, which you, off-air, you said we've been doing great on it, and then what I love the most is that you commented off-air, you said, better than Weingarten, which is a direct shot at Jason saying he's the most successful guest in a numbers game history.
Ever.
You don't like that, do you? You're very offended by that.
Well, it may well be. He's done very well.
Okay. What's your pick this week? What do you like this week?
I like the Rams, Monday Night Football. Easy handicap. So I have the Rams rated as a superior team against Miami. I know not a big home field advantage, but Miami has to fly across the country. I also like the fact if it's a close game, huge coaching advantage, and that should be the most significant in a very close game. And I always like these West Coast teams with the late start times because of the body clock and the like. And the game gets decided in the fourth quarter. It's 10 p.m. or later Eastern time, and all of those would put me on the Rams. So I'm on the Rams minus the one.
You know, when you said huge coaching advantage, my knee jerk, my instinct was to say, really, you think that? But you know what? I can't argue with that anymore. That first game with Tyler Huntley just completely turned me on Mike McDaniel. It's not the capri pants. I know Todd likes to go in on the capri pants, but that was such a bad coaching display.
Wants to be a rock star.
All right. Now, you've gone absolutely nuts here in terms of the look ahead. You have how many plays for week 11?
6. So I'm not protecting my lead. Why can I have so many more plays for week 11 than week 10? Because these are virgin lines. They really haven't been bet into.
Virgin lines.
Yes. So they're not hammered in place by big syndicates.
Okay.
And big
enough with the bet into hammered in place. Okay. Enough. Stop it. Okay. Six.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, sure you don't. 6 next week. All right. What do you like?
Let's
here?
start out with the sides. Green Bay, minus 2.5, minus 120 at Chicago. Power rating wise, I make it minus 3, but you know what? Green Bay always wins in Chicago, and I think there's a little bit of a mutiny going on with the Bears. You look at that schedule.
Oh, my God.
If they don't win this week, they might not win another game.
Oh, I said that earlier. We were doing adjusted season win totals. I went under on Chicago, and I said the same thing. If they
fully endorse that, co-sign the under 7.5 for the Bears.
If they lose this week, forget about it. Yeah, I mean, how often in your life have you seen wide receivers running off the field in a middle of a play? I had Pritchard, Mike Pritchard was on the Megapod yesterday, and I was asking him about this as a former wide receiver who actually played the game, and he said it, he goes, these kids are so entitled. He said it. He's like, I've never seen anything like this before.
Right, and even stay close to the sideline. Don't go 5 yards away because at least you can keep your defender on you, even though you're not allowed to catch the ball first. Yes.
Okay, so the first one was Green Bay?
Yes.
Okay.
Second one, Baltimore, minus 3, lay $1.15 at Pittsburgh. I make it north of 3. I want to get in front of it. We can have a good conversation. I think Detroit's better than Baltimore, but I have Baltimore as the second best team in the NFL. And now they got 10 days to prepare against a slightly overrated Pittsburgh team.
You are in line with Aaron Schatz, who said he has Detroit as number 1, and he says by margin, and Detroit through... What have they played? 8 games, I believe, through 8 games, better than Baltimore and San Francisco through 8 games last year. And he ended up with Baltimore and San Francisco when all was said and done as 2 of his top 10 teams of all time. So there you go. Okay. Next.
Number 3, Atlanta Falcons. I know I'm playing chalk, but you know what? The time to play chalk, it makes sense. Earlier, against, oftentimes the odds makers, they want to be sharp. They're like, I'm not going to inflate these lines. Well, they wind up underinflating them, and you get bargains. So Atlanta, minus $1.10 at Denver. I just have Atlanta a good 2.5 to 3 points better than Denver. So if I can get them, at that price, these are all DraftKings. I just took the prices at DraftKings. Absolutely, I'm going to play the Falcons.
All right, next.
Number 4, Buffalo +1 versus Kansas City. This is as easy a bet to make as ever. What am I doing going against Mahomes? Kansas City is so good when they're a dog. Well, they won't be a dog in this game because I think just a little while ago, Buffalo and San Fran are comparable teams. And they were cutting in line to bet the 49ers -2 hosting the Chiefs.
Cutting in line.
Cutting in line. Don't cut in line. Go to the front of the class line and play Buffalo +1 before they become the favorite hosting KC.
Wow. Okay. By the way, if you do the Steve Fezzik pie of bets, what percentage is the look-aheads versus week of?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would say 2/3 look-aheads, 1/3 the week of, but then once the games start, I start live betting. Then it gets
so add that in. So what does it end up being?
Oh, I make literally 100 live bets during
live
a weekend.
bets way more than the
live
others.
bets are absolutely worth
Do
it.
you really make that many?
Yeah.
I don't know that I knew that about you.
Yeah, there's a reason I never am willing to come on to like any media during a Sunday because I'm just so busy with, including prop bets on players. I mean, there's so much you can play.
I'm with you too, obviously, but not hundreds. My goodness. Okay, more.
Let's do 2 totals. So I love this handicap, but I'm biased because it's my handicap. Cincy against the Chargers over 45. So now every Charger game has gone under this year. Guess what? Every Charger game this year has been against a team that is what I would call a dead nut under team. A Denver, a Las Vegas, a Pittsburgh. Teams like that with good defenses and no offense. So because of that, all their stats are skewed towards Chargers have a really good defense, Chargers average offense. And the truth is, it's more close to the middle than you would think. And the Bengals are a dead nut over team. Don't know if you saw the game last night.
I did.
Quite a bit of offense, so over 45.
Yes. Okay, you said you had 2 totals. What was the other one?
Second total, Indy Jets over 43. I'm going to make the case here that the Jets are a team that the perception was we don't know about Rodgers and the offense, but we love that defense. Now, offense has gotten more weapons. Offense is trending upwards. Defense is trending downwards. It's time to play Jet games to go over.
All right. We will, by the way, if you missed any of these will all be available for subscribers at VSiN.com/picks. Every host, every guest, all their picks, every sport at VSiN.com/picks. We will also review them here at the end of the show, including Stevie's, every guest on the show today, because between Felica and Fezzik, we have a whole bunch. We got Dr. Bob coming up as well. I'll put mine in there as well, and the G-Bank plays of the day. Before we go, we have
I think Dr. Bob may have won more on this show. Spreadopedia.
Dr. Bob is probably, if we're really talking about it, he's probably the winningest guest on this show.
I think we need to have a recount. Is what we need here.
Well, the beauty of that though is that Jason, this was never a subject, right? And Jason made it one. Jason wanted people to know that it was him.
It's certainly possible. I think Jason hit an 80 to 1 or
that's
something.
That's what I mean. If you have the futures numbers,
so if you count those, all right.
It could be Jason. That's absolutely right. Before you go, because we only have a minute here left, you do your power rankings. Do you have, what is the most outlying, based on conventional wisdom, what is the most off-market opinion you have either to the good or the bad on a team?
Yeah, so I've been high on the Eagles. And by the way, my power ratings on X, at Fezzik Sports, there's a fellow named Sam Hoppen that aggregates all the power ratings.
Yes.
And I've been higher on the Eagles because everyone says Sirianni's a dummy and does everything wrong, and they just refuse to believe the Eagles are a top 5 team. So I've been high on the Eagles. I'm down on Tampa Bay. I think without the wide receivers, I have them 2 points worse than an average team, and everyone else pretty much has them right in the middle. So those are the 2 teams I'm on an island with.
Okay, because when we did the NFC playoff make-miss, we had a few tweeters who were like, few listeners who tweeted in, what about the Bucs? You don't see it that way. Without the
no
wideouts.
chance. When I say no chance,
Yeah.
no real path to getting there.
And the Eagles thing, I mean, both things could be true. Sirianni could be subpar, and they could still be good, right?
And I'm on an island when I don't care, you're up 16-0, and you can turn a 2-score into a 3-score game. It's the first half. My expectation going for 2 from the 1 is 1.2 points. Kicking, it's a little under 1 point. I think he actually did the right thing.
I did too.
And he got thrown under the bus because they didn't get it. And there's so many Dumbo coaches that don't go for 2 there, and they get free passes.
I'm so tired of the results-oriented armchair quarterbacking after that, because they didn't get it, for people to say that. But it was the right. If you're at the 1-yard line, you go for it.
Thanks for watching, but don't let the betting insights end here. If you want an extra edge this football season, you can get a month of VSiN Pro right now, absolutely free. That means access to our betting insights, analysis, and tools like our betting splits at 0 cost to you. Click the link in the description to sign up.